When one thinks of the American Revolution, the name of Patrick Henry, the Virginia patriot and champion of liberty, should have a prominent place. He lived and served both his colony and his country from locations in that state. The word liberty is almost synonymous with Henry's name, and consequently the places where he lived and served still ring with that theme. I'd like to take you on a quick tour of some key Henry sites that can deepen your knowledge of this outstanding patriot. Visiting these historic locations quite often results in tidbits of personal information not always found in other venues, offering the chance to discuss and ask questions and bring the distant past into the palpable present. For this presentation, I will visit the sites in chronological order. 3 of the 4 sites mentioned in this presentation are part of the Road to Revolution Heritage Trail. And while the official trail does not include Pole Green Church, the first site I explore, there are definitely other Henry sites to be explored. Located just minutes from Richmond, Virginia, historic Pole Green Church is no longer standing, but its structure is silhouetted by white beams, and an interpretive site gives the history of this church. Established in 1747, the Meeting House, as it was known in the 18th century, served an important role in the Dissenter movement and the Great Awakening, ultimately leading to America's civil and religious liberties. It was here that Patrick Henry attended church with his mother, a New Light Presbyterian, sitting under the preaching of the Reverend Samuel Davies, who successfully defended his right to preach as a dissenting minister before the Virginia authorities and became the first licensed non-Anglican minister in the colony of Virginia. Davies was an outstanding orator, and Patrick Henry credits sitting under this man's preaching as a youth as the formative tool for his own outstanding oratory skills. Next on our stop is Scotchtown, located in Beaver Dam, about 45 minutes drive north of Richmond. It was here that Patrick Henry conceived his most influential revolutionary ideas. Scotchtown is the only original standing home of the patriot and orator of the American Revolution. Patrick Henry, his wife Sarah, and their 6 children probably took occupancy in the spring of 1771. Around the time that family relocated to Scotchtown, Sarah Henry began to show signs of mental illness. Eventually, she had to be confined for both her own and family's protection. When you tour the house, they will show you the small basement apartment where they believe she was kept. She died at Scotchtown in 1775. In a tour our family took, the docent said that while there is no conclusive proof, many historians believe that Sarah's mental illness was caused by lead poisoning, most likely from eating and drinking from pewter plates and cups. These tidbits of insight are the kind of things you get from visiting rather than just reading about a site. It was from Scotchtown that Patrick Henry wrote on March 23, 1775, to deliver his famous Liberty or Death speech at St. John's Church in Richmond, and again in 1776 to be elected first governor of Virginia. In 1777, Henry married his second wife, Dorothea Dandridge, and relocated to the governor's palace in Williamsburg, which brings us to our next location, St. John's Historic Church in Richmond. As tensions between Virginia and England grew in the 1770s, the assembly of the Second Virginia Convention was moved from the capital of Williamsburg to Richmond. St. John's, the largest available public building in the city, was the site of the March 1775 meeting attended by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Henry Lee, and other prominent Virginians who heard Patrick Henry's stirring words, "Give me liberty" or "Give me death." Now a National Historic Landmark, visitors are invited to tour where liberty found its voice. Patrick Henry lived in several homes, but this last place, the place he loved best, was a plantation called Red Hill on the Staunton River, which he fondly called the garden spot of the world. Located near Brookneal, Virginia, it is approximately 2 hours' drive from the other Richmond sites. In declining health due to stomach cancer, Henry moved to Red Hill, his last home and burial place, in 1794 at the age of 57. You may there visit the reconstructed house and dependencies in the original law office. The Visitor Center Museum houses the largest collection of Henry artifacts and memorabilia in the world, including the famous Peter F. Rothermel oil painting, Patrick Henry Before the Virginia House of Burgesses. Wanting to retire from politics and be at liberty to spend time with his large family, Henry declined appointments as Secretary of State, Attorney General, Justice of the Supreme Court, and ministered to both Spain and France. He greatly enjoyed the time he had to play with his children and instruct his sons. But he re-entered politics in the spring of 1799 in response to a direct request from his old friend George Washington, easily winning a seat in the Virginia legislature. However, before the legislature convened, Henry died at Red Hill on June 6, 1799, at the age of 63. He is buried along with his second wife, Dorothea Dandridge, in the family cemetery at Red Hill. Patrick Henry left the following words on the back of a sealed document to be opened after his death. As always, he was concerned with liberty and the preservation of it for posterity. He admonished that America's independence, quote, will prove a blessing or a curse, will depend on the use of our people make of the blessing which a gracious God hath bestowed on us. If they are wise, they will be great and happy. If they are of a contrary character, they will be miserable. Remember, righteousness alone can exalt them as a nation. Reader, whoever thou art, remember this, and in thy sphere practice virtue thyself and encourage it in others. P. Henry.